The topic of today's video is going to be contrasting experiences, actually extremifying the experiences. When you're in a load of pain throughout the entire day, and you just honestly feel like you don't want to live anymore, and the pain is just basically unbearable, and you just kind of stop caring about any enjoyment in life. As soon as you remove yourself from that frame point and you remove the pain causing activities, you're going to feel a lot better right afterwards, because it's like if you have a low dopamine level right before you have a normal dopamine level, that normal dopamine level is going to feel like a high dopamine level, because like how you feel now is completely relative to what you were just feeling a few minutes ago. So let's say this guy is beyond content, just a slight bit beyond content. He's just kind of happy. Now, let's put him in two scenarios. One scenario where a few minutes ago he was the happiest person on earth, and he had just won 100 million in cash. And then the second scenario is when just 5 minutes ago he almost got ran over, and the driver in the car stuck up the middle finger at him. So we have these two scenarios, okay, and in both of them he's completely content now. In one of them though, he was the luckiest man on earth a couple of minutes ago. Another two, and in the other scenario he was extremely enraged and infuriated and almost humiliated in public. So we obviously know how this beyond content feeling is going to feel like when he was in both these scenarios. Like, we obviously know that when he won a million a couple of minutes ago and now he's only feeling beyond content, then what is that compared to what he was feeling a couple of minutes ago? Like, he's coming down onto a pillow from a big long high, and it's not like it's terrible or anything, but it's not great, because he's not in pure ecstasy anymore. And that makes complete sense, because ecstasy is not an emotion you can handle for a long time. It's the most extreme form of happiness, and if you stayed like that all the time, it would just tear you apart. You won't be able to live. It would be horrible. Now, the second scenario where he almost got ran over, got the finger stuck up at him, he's gonna feel a lot better, because he's gonna realize, yeah, I couldn't really do anything about that. Hey, at least I'm not so severely impassioned with the situation now that it hasn't happened only a couple of seconds ago. It's been a few minutes and I've got my head cool. I feel much better now. See, these are two different scenarios that just because their contrast alone have brought him to a completely different viewpoint and perspective in terms of his emotional well-being in the moment. That's what emotions are. They're a reaction to your surroundings in the very moment, and they are not in absolutes. Like, you never really compare how happy you are now compared to how happy you feel throughout your whole life. For example, I am pretty certain that, and I'm not saying this to be all morose or anything, but I am not. My happiness has been steadily decreasing for the last 19 years of my life, and it's been getting worse and worse. Yet now, in this particular moment, I feel fine because I'm used to this level. Whereas, let's say I was 10 years old and I was suddenly brought down to this level of realization, and so much truth stuffed into my brain that I realize everything that's been happening around me. I realize all of my circumstances and everything I need to do. I would have almost jumped out the window, I'd say, because it would have just been such a shock and such a deep transition. It's like when you gradually come down off a high, you like step down some steps on the stairs, but when you suddenly come down from a high, down to a much lower place, even though that place isn't low in terms of absolutes, it's still like jumping off the roof of the Colosseum. You know, you're not gonna easily come out from that, as opposed to if you just came down gradually. And that's why contrasts are so powerful in terms of our emotional states. And the sort of analogy I gave at the beginning of this video, where I was talking about if you're in complete pain all day and then you drag yourself out of that painful situation just because you don't do it anymore, you feel better. And for example, I feel better now. I was not cold calling today because I only got my phone credit today, and that's because my card actually came, which is great. And I'm going to be probably calling for like 6 or 7 hours tomorrow, which I'm not looking forward to whatsoever. And I know I'm going to lose my faith and will to live for a while, but that's just a sacrifice I'm going to have to make. And I suppose all the now that I think of it, what I should probably be doing now is making sure I don't get onto too much of a high now, or else I won't have too far to fall down during those few hours. Because that's what happens like every single night. Every single night I start feeling great about myself and the progress I'm making, and the next morning it just all goes down the toilet and I feel terrible again. It's like I have to build it up again every single day, build up the motivation. Again, like Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the hill, just doing it every single day, and he can never stop because he has to do it for eternity. It's not really that different of a situation for me. And that's why I just kind of need to emotionally regulate myself. And of course, I have work again on Sunday, which I'm not looking forward to at all. It's just, I find it to be a waste of time, kind of. It's good for money, but that's only because I haven't actually signed any clients yet. But I had one meeting today, or I should have had one. The problem was they cancelled it about an hour beforehand. I texted them just to remind you of the meeting we have at 2 p.m. and it was 1 p.m. then. And they said they'd read the text, and about 10 minutes later they replied to me, could you call on Monday instead? And I said, sure, what time would suit you? So I wasn't able to do a meeting today, and I was looking to do one. There's not much I can really do about that. Now, I really would have wanted to actually go through with this meeting. Like, I don't want to be leaving the pain of sales calls to my future self, because that's what seems to be happening a lot these days. Like, thankfully I have one tomorrow, so I can get one in before the weekend, and I can get 2 done on Monday then, and then I have another one again next Friday again. I suppose Mondays and Fridays are the best days for these kinds of people. But yeah, just emotional contrasts. Again though, I don't know how much advice you're supposed to be taking away from me, because maybe if you're watching these videos you're similar to me. Maybe you're not though, because about 99% of people are completely like 100 miles away from me in terms of like every paradigm of thought, like everything. Just because like of circumstances, you're probably not similar to me. You might be, but the chances are so slim. Maybe that's the reason I'm not attracting many people on my YouTube channel. It's because there's just not many people like me in particular, and I don't say that out of ego. I just say it out of in terms of the categorical system of how people can behave and function. I kind of don't operate on the same spectrum that most people do. It's just a different wavelength altogether. It doesn't mean I'm smarter, doesn't mean I'm dumber, it just means I think differently. I see things sort of differently, I see things more numerically, like almost overly conscientious about like everything. But yeah, that's basically my viewpoint of things anyway. If you're struggling to amount any type of motivation towards anything, then it's probably because you're semi-motivated all the time, and that's kind of the other part of all this. I'm going to turn my camera a bit closer to my face. If you feel like okay all the time, that'll be okay, but that's just it, you know. It's nothing other than okay. Whereas you can fluctuate like crazy around this line, and the average of it all is going to be this line, or you can just ride along this line and fluctuate very little when you're going through life, or you could just go extremely far up and extremely far down like a bipolar person would do. Don't do that, but you know, have some sort of like, do it do it kind of consciously. Don't be in a situation where you're kind of forced to do that, where your brain is forced to function like that. Of course, it's not really a choice of whether your brain is forced to function like that or not. If that stuff has happened to you, then you're probably not going to be watching this video to begin with. If you are, hats off to you. I would recommend reading The Chimp Paradox and then afterwards striving to achieve something in your life and getting a mentor or something. That's kind of what I'm doing. But it's how I lived for years. I was playing. Now, to be honest, I think my level of enjoyment on life was just low to begin with, so I don't think video games destroyed my dopamine receptors or social media. But when I would play them, it would make me feel okay all the time, but there would be no contrast. Like I wouldn't feel that bad. I wouldn't feel that great either. It would just be a constant mediocrity, constant with no true pain, but no true pleasure either. And that's what you need to be careful of. That's almost the kind of life you don't want to live. Because objectively speaking, you're living the most amount of life and living the best if you're experiencing the most of every possible sensation ever. And that's mainly pain, because happiness has a limit, ecstasy has a limit. The amount of joy, the amount of gratitude, even the amount of compassion you can feel for others, I'd say it's all limited. Pain is not limited, which is why you can keep going down further and further into the trenches of pain and despair, and you can explore, and the chasm just never comes to an end. You can just keep going and going. It just goes further, man. And you can just explore like a bloody Minecraft pickaxe, or you can see all the diamonds and all of the water. Jump into the river there, you might see an occasional spider and a creeper around the place, but they're part of the attraction as well. So just go with it. Go understand all of your pain and push away your anxiety. Just push it down. That's what I'm doing.